Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video. And that will take us to around the 25th of October. So heading into the final week of the month with the 10-day time frame. We'll be able to extend out beyond that, but, of course, with the GFS and ECM ensembles running to around a couple of weeks, will get us more or less to the beginning of November, certainly to the end of the month. And we'll have a look at Cirrus V2 as well at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks as well. Talking of the weather for the next 4 weeks, we have just released the ECMWF 30-day look ahead. So that's looking at temperature and precipitation anomalies for the next 4 weeks, not only for the UK, but for Europe as well. And it looks like it'll be a rather changeable early period. I mean, it all gets a little bit uncertain later on, but have a look around and see what's going on there. We're going to start off with this video, though, in the tropical Atlantic. So we have 3 disturbance areas. We have 2 yellow X's and then 15, and I'll talk about 15 in a moment. But let's deal with the 2 disturbance areas, one just there and then one over here. So this one is disturbance 1 with a 0% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours and only a 30% chance of cyclone formation in the next 5 days. What we're saying with that one is a trough of low pressure is producing a small area of showers and thunderstorms over the southern Yucatan Peninsula, Belize and northern Guatemala. This disturbance and another tropical system over the eastern Pacific Ocean are expected to produce heavy rains across a large portion of Central America during the next couple of days, which could cause flooding and mudslides, especially in mountainous areas. By late Wednesday, the disturbance is forecast to emerge over the Bay of Campeche and gradually turn northward. Environmental conditions could become a little more conducive for some development towards the end of the week when the system is located over the western Gulf of Mexico. So it sounds as though this system is going to do something a little bit like that, perhaps, and by the end of the week being that kind of area. Maybe that could become something significant as it gets into the Gulf of Mexico, or if it gets into the Gulf of Mexico at the end of the week and into the weekend. So that could be one to keep an eye on. Then we've also got disturbance 2 just there. That's got a 10% chance of cyclone formation in the next 48 hours and a 10% chance in the next 5 days. It doesn't look as though that's going to do a great deal. What we're saying with this one is a tropical wave located more than 500 miles east of the southern Windward Islands continues to produce disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Upper level winds are expected to become increasingly hostile over the system, and significant development of this system appears unlikely while the disturbance moves westward at 15 to 20 miles per hour. Doesn't look like that was going to do anything particularly significant for the time being. And then finally we have 15 over here near the Cabo Verde Islands. So that is actually tropical depression 15, and it's giving maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,006 millibars, and it's moving northwestward at 12 miles per hour. If we click on 15, we can see what's forecast to happen with this. So any time now, sometime today, it looks like tropical depression 15 will become a tropical storm. It is being forecast there with that white S in the black circle. It's being forecast to become a tropical storm. If that happens, it will be Tropical Storm Nestor. Nestor is the next name on this list of 2019 tropical storm and hurricane season names. It doesn't look as though Nestor will last very long, though. So by tomorrow, already going down to a tropical depression and then going post-tropical by the end of the week. But it looks like that's going to be our next named tropical storm, very close to the Cabo Verde Islands. In the next few hours. It might even have been named by the time you watch this video in around an hour or so's time. So we'll continue to monitor what's happening in the tropical Atlantic, of course. I would suspect we'll get at least one more hurricane before this season is done at some point through the next couple of weeks. Maybe it'll be that one that's going to move into the Gulf of Mexico. We'll see what happens. Right, coming back closer home, these are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're at London today. The red line is the 30-year upper air temperature average for London. We're starting off around average with the upper air temperatures at the moment. It's relatively warm. It's going to go a little bit warmer, in fact, as we get through to tonight and tomorrow, associated with an area of low pressure, though. Then through the second half of the week into the weekend and to next week, it actually looks rather on the cool side, a little bit cooler than average. A bit of a tick up then in the temperature around the middle of next week before it looks like they're sliding away as we go through the final week of October. We did get a GFS run appearing this morning, the operational, midnight operational GFS run, which we're going for a real cold snap, a proper Arctic northerly for the final days of October. And I'll show you it in a moment. Whether we go to that extent, I doubt we will, but it does look as though the GFS ensembles anyway indicating quite a cool last week to October. And there are some really quite cold ensemble members. These ones are going down to -5 at 850 HPA. Precipitation-wise, plenty of rainfall still to come, either in the form of showers or longer spells of rain up to the weekend. Possibly a little bit of a drying trend next week, but not completely dry. Even then, it looks like we will have further showery outbreaks at the very least. Down there in the southern part of the country. Temperature anomalies from the 15th to 23rd of October look like that. Very close to average, not a particularly big deviation either way. Precipitation anomalies are actually going drier now for central and northern parts of the country. Anyway, so we've got Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, we've got Scotland, Northern England, Wales. Those areas are forecast to be drier than average in the week ahead. Down in the south and the southeast, it still looks a little bit unsettled, especially so in that southeastern corner. But gradually these anomaly charts are getting drier at the moment. Right, this is that midnight GFS run then. So we're starting on Friday, bringing in a cool and showery westerly wind on Friday, and those cool showery conditions continue into the weekend. As this low pressure moves across the country over the weekend, you notice the isobars are opening out, the low pressure is filling. That's what we call filling when the isobars open out like that. And it's going to be quite a cool weekend, so this could pave the way for some frost actually by night over weekend, especially up in the north, but even across more southern areas. I wouldn't rule out the chance of a little bit of ground frost during the nights this weekend. Still showers around, but I think gradually they'll lose their potency over the weekend. But conversely, because the isobars are opening out, winds are going to fall light, so any showers that do develop over the weekend are likely to be quite slow moving. Now, into the early part of next week, that low pressure gets out of the way and we build this little bit of a ridge up from the southwest. So that turns us increasingly dry through the early part of next week. We do have a window of drier weather opening up there. The high pressure actually strengthening across the country. That could bring some really quite mild air through the middle part of next week, seeing the temperature lifting up. But as we move up towards day 10, that high pressure begins to pull out to the west of us. So when we get to day 10, which is Friday the 25th of October, we find the high pressure is to the west of Ireland, and we're bringing in cooler northwesterly winds. Probably still relatively dry at this point. The Atlantic is blocked off, so not particularly wet. But certainly looking a little bit cooler by the time we get through to day 10. And then look what happened with this midnight GFS run in the extended range. We start to pull that high pressure further out into the middle of the North Atlantic. There's a trough of low pressure sinking through Scandinavia, and in between the winds are beginning to shift round into the north, and we develop that further into the closing days of October. This is Tuesday 29th of October when we're starting to pull down proper cold Arctic northerly winds there. If you follow the isobars back, you can see how far north the areas originate from, right off the top of the map. So that is a real northerly that's plunging down across northern and western parts of Europe there. In the extended range of the midnight GFS run, -5 Celsius isotherm is plunging through the country. That's how we finished up. Actually looking quite cold and wintry. This is Halloween. This is the 31st of October, and it does look quite cold and wintry on this midnight GFS run. The winds have shifted round to the northeast. It's a strong northeasterly as well. We'll probably be bringing in wintry showers with it, particularly to eastern parts of the country. There's the upper air temperatures there looking cold as well. So that is a properly cold end to October. That would probably be the coldest sort of close to October we've had, I would have thought, since 2008. You remember in 2008, in the final days of October that year, we did get actually some snow down across southern parts of England. Very unlikely we would get that this year. That was around a 1 in 50 year event, I think. What happened at the end of October 2008. But who knows? It does certainly look quite cold anyway with those north to northeasterly winds. That's a midnight GFS run, but this is a 6 o'clock run. And this is the latest, therefore. Again, we're up Friday, so Friday's looking cool and showery with winds in from the west, and then that low pressure moves over the country. The isobars are filling out, so it's going to be turning certainly light with the wind, and with pretty cool upper air temperatures, there could be some potential for overnight frost this weekend. Into next week, the low pressure clears away. We build this ridge up through the early part of next week, so it does turn drier through the early part of next week. We break out of this very, very unsettled first half to October that we've had. And then run into the middle and second half of next week, where you notice it's sort of same sort of idea, really, with the 6 o'clock run to the midnight run, in that the high pressure gradually finds its way to the west of the country. Still mostly dry at this point because the Atlantic is blocked off, but we're bringing around cooler sort of northerly winds or northeast winds. They're not particularly a particularly cold source of air, so if you can see the way the isobars are rotating around this area of high pressure, it's all Atlantic based stuff. Anything properly cold is like going down into central northern parts of Scandinavia up here, so we're not tapping into a cold source of air. Nevertheless, it probably would be fairly chilly with the high pressure out to west of the UK. In the extended range with the 6 o'clock GFS run, this is what happens. Again, it's the same idea, same sort of trend to midnight GFS, in that the high pressure is moving further westwards with time. So we're up to Sunday the 27th of October now, with the high pressure in the middle of the North Atlantic. Could be setting up a bit of a northerly plunge. And that's how we finish up with this GFS run on 31st of October, last day of the month. Has this ridge through the country. Probably quite cool. There's a bit of an east-northeasterly wind, although it's nowhere near as cold as what we had on the midnight GFS run. But if we could roll on any further, we might find this low pressure up here sort of doing something a little bit like that, with the ridge going in that direction. That's a possibility, and if that happened, we would start to pull down northerly winds into the opening days of November. But in terms of what the high pressure is doing, the trend is similar between the midnight and 6 o'clock GFS. So there is a possibility here that we could have something colder in the last week of October. GM looks like that. Rather cool, showery conditions for Friday. And then into the weekend, as low pressure fills as it moves across the country. Winds fall light. There will still be showers. Watch out for some pretty chilly nights. Early next week, we get rid of that low. We start to build this ridge up from the Atlantic. It'll be quite cool initially next week. And then through the middle of next week, probably becoming a bit warmer as winds swing into the southwest. Up to day 10, that's how we're looking. So this looks like it could be setting up a northerly as well, actually. This has got a ridge, this is day 10, 25th of October. It's got a ridge over France and Spain and Portugal to our south, but it also has this ridge building towards the south of Greenland. So there's going to be an active cold front in that sort of position with that. It'll stretch a long way into the Atlantic on the southern side of that front. It might actually be an occluded front, but it will stretch a long way into the Atlantic. On the southern side of that, the air is going to be relatively warm, but on the northern side of it, the air could be quite cold. And I would suspect what is likely to be the evolution of that, if we could go any further, is that the high pressure would go in that sort of direction. The trough would push through Scandinavia and take that trailing weather front with it. And we will finish up probably going into a bit of a northerly there, if we could go any further than day 10 with the GM, which we can't. And then we've got the ECMWF again with showery conditions on Friday, quite windy as well. Over the weekend, the low pressure sort of moves into the country, isobars open out, so we lose those strong winds, and it will be quite a cool weekend as well, with the risk of night frost. Early next week, pressure rises from the southwest, so that settles us down through the early part of next week, gives us a break to this very unsettled weather. And then in the second half of next week, again, we start to bring up some milder winds from the southwest. That's how we look at day 10. So actually quite similar to what the GEM is showing. We've got this ridge of high pressure sitting to our south. We're raising heights to the south of Greenland and into Greenland. There's quite a bit of low pressure around here. And there would be a waving, strung out sort of occluded front that's doing something a bit like that. On the southern side of that front, we would have relatively warm air from the south, but to the north of it, we would have quite cold air to the north. And it's all, what happens beyond that is a case of whether this ridge collapses or pulls out to west. If a ridge goes in that direction or it collapses into southeastern Europe, then we will probably start to pull in colder winds from the north. So the last days of October are going to be quite interesting. Will we pull off our first cold snap of the season? We'll have to wait and see. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which of course is the 25th of October, from the Icelandic Met Office. So we have 15 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure to our south and also out to the northwest as well. Low pressure is up here, and we've got a weather front that's strung out, so bringing up warmer southwesterly winds on the southern side of that front and trying to introduce colder northerly winds on the northern side. We have 14 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure out to our west northwest, a trough of low pressure sinking through Scandinavia. That could be starting to bring in some colder winds from the north. 12 have high pressure even further out into the middle of the North Atlantic, and a deep trough of low pressure is sinking through northern and western parts of Europe. That's probably the coldest and potentially rather wintry, certainly for Scandinavia, rather wintry group of ensemble members. And then there's 10 just here with a ridge sort of centred close to the country, bring the reason out of dry weather. As we get through to 2 weeks away, these are the options that we've got. This is the 30th of October, so pretty much to month's end. A mid-Atlantic ridge just here with these 13, and a trough of low pressure over to the east of us. They look quite cold, bringing in winds from the north. 12 have a ridge of high pressure over the top of the country, just a little bit to our west. Another 12 with a ridge over the country, possibly bringing in slightly more of an easterly wind with those. 8 with high pressure over Scandinavia and low pressure to our south. They'd be bringing in easterly winds. And then 6 just here with a deep trough of low pressure covering much of Western Europe, a ridge in the middle of the Atlantic. There's a trough in the 500 millibar flow. They're very unsettled and potentially quite cool too. There's a chance here that we could have some colder weather in the final week of October, but obviously it's very much up in the air, if you pardon the pun. It's a long way off. It's over 10 days away, so just the possibility at the moment, but we do of course need to keep an eye on it. Finally, CFSV2, so these are 500 millibar heights broken down to weekly periods. The first weekly period will take us from the 15th to the 21st of October, and the coming week looks quite unsettled still. Low pressure is close to the country, and we're bringing in these relatively coolish westerly winds. Week 2 is going to be the 22nd to 28th of October. This time we have above average heights in the middle of the North Atlantic and extending towards Spain and France as well. Another high pressure trying to build over Scandinavia and low pressure up towards Greenland and Iceland. It's a very messy picture, but probably doing something like that but flowing with a jet. So turning a little bit drier, especially so down in the south, and I would have thought relatively mild. Then week 3, no sign of a cold snap with the CFS. In October anyway. Week 3 is the 29th of October to the 4th of November with above average heights centred pretty much over the UK and into the Atlantic. Low pressures up there. That's going to be mostly dry and relatively mild again. And then week 4 finally looking like this. It's the 5th to the 11th of November, so bonfire night to Remembrance Day, and it looks unsettled to our north with low pressure out to the northwest, high pressure down towards Spain and Portugal, and bringing westerly winds. That's probably turning more unsettled, still relatively mild though, with winds in from the west and the southwest. The CFS is not in any way at all interested in a cold snap during the final days of October. Of course, there are anomalies over weeks, so there may even within those be like a couple of days that go a bit colder with winds in from the north, but certainly nothing sustained there. Looks like the CFS wants to keep things relatively mild through to the early part of November. But the shorter range, the hints are there within the GFS operational runs and probably GFS ensembles as well, and also the ECM ensembles. The hints are there that the closing days, the final 5 days, let's say, of October has the potential to pull in some significantly colder air from the north, but at the moment it's only potential, it's only possibilities, maybes. So we're going to have to wait and see, and of course this will probably be a developing situation over the next few days, or it could be that these models will just drop the whole idea over the next few model runs. It'll be interesting what they're showing tomorrow. Right, that's it for your videos today. Tomorrow we've got the 5-day forecast coming up, and of course we'll have another week to 10 to 14 day outlook as well. Will we see any development of these hints of northerly winds for the end of October? We shall see tomorrow. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.